Berlin, August 1936. Nearly 100,000 people filled the Olympic Stadium. The world expected to witness greatness. Instead, it witnessed history. A government had spent years preparing this moment. The stadium, the banners, the spectacle, everything was meant to project an image of strength and racial superiority. Then, a young black American stepped onto the track. He carried no title beyond the lane beneath his feet, no political slogan, no speech, only a lifetime of sacrifice and the courage to keep running. Within seconds, the world would begin to question a lie that millions had been taught to believe. But history did not begin in Berlin. It began hundreds of miles away, in a place where hope was scarce and survival came first. His name was James Cleveland Owens, born on September 12, 1913, in Oakville, Alabama. His parents worked as sharecroppers. They labored from sunrise to sunset. Freedom had replaced slavery, but hardship had not disappeared. The family owned little, money was scarce, and daily life demanded work from nearly everyone in the family. As a child, JC, as everyone called him, was often sick and physically slight. Nothing about those early years suggested the athlete he would become. No one looked at that quiet little boy and imagined an Olympic champion. Life had given him every reason to remain unnoticed. When Jesse was 9, his family left Alabama. Like countless black families during the Great Migration, they traveled north, searching for opportunity, not comfort, not wealth, simply the chance for a better future. They arrived in Cleveland, Ohio. The city offered possibility, but not prosperity. Money was still scarce. Everyone worked, including Jesse. Before he learned how to chase records, he learned how to carry responsibility. Yet somewhere inside that young boy, a new belief quietly took root. Perhaps his future did not have to resemble his past. On his first day at school, a teacher asked his name. He answered softly, JC. His southern accent made JC sound like Jesse to his teacher. She wrote down the name she thought she had heard. Jesse, a simple misunderstanding, nothing more, or so it seemed. Years later, that name would be spoken in stadiums, printed in newspapers, and remembered across the world. History does not always announce itself. Sometimes, it begins with an ordinary misunderstanding that no one thinks twice about. At school, Coach Charles Riley watched Jesse run. Others noticed speed. Riley noticed something deeper: discipline, determination, and a quiet refusal to give up. He invited Jesse to train before school. Morning after morning, while the city was still asleep, a young boy circled the track. One lap, then another. Every stride strengthened his body. Every sunrise strengthened his belief. Without realizing it, he was already running toward a destiny no one else could yet imagine. Victories came quietly. Then they came more often. Local races, city championships, state competitions. Wherever Jesse ran, people began asking the same question: who is this young man? His speed drew attention. His determination earned respect. He never chased fame, he chased opportunity. Because every finish line carried him farther away from the life he had known. Soon, America would know his name, then the world. But the greatest obstacles waiting for Jesse Owens would never stand in the lane beside him. Jesse Owens had become one of America's brightest young athletes. But talent could only open the first door. It could not change the color of his skin. In 1933, he entered Ohio State University. For many students, college meant new opportunities. For Jesse, It meant another uphill climb. Ohio State did not provide Jesse with an athletic scholarship. To support himself while studying and training, he worked part-time, including as a freight elevator operator at the Ohio State House. By sunrise, he was an athlete. By night, he was simply a young man trying to keep a dream alive. On the track, the crowd saw a champion. Off the track, the world saw something else. On road trips, Jesse and other black teammates could be forced to stay and eat separately from their white teammates. Back in Columbus, restaurants along High Street refused to serve black students like Jesse. The applause lasted only minutes. The discrimination waited outside. He could outrun every competitor in the stadium. Yet he could not outrun the color of his own skin. The finish line treated every runner the same. Society did not. At Ohio State, Coach Larry Snyder believed raw talent was only the beginning. Champions were shaped, one detail at a time. He studied every start, every stride, every landing. He challenged Jesse to improve, not by seconds, but by fractions of a second. Again and again, there were no shortcuts, only repetition, discipline, and trust. Jesse embraced every lesson. Years later, he would still say that Larry Snyder had helped him become not only a better athlete, but a better man. Away from the stadium, life continued. Jesse and Ruth Solomon had known each other since their school years. Their first daughter, Gloria, was born in 1932, and Jesse and Ruth married in 1935. Alongside college, work, and training, Jesse was already carrying the responsibilities of a young family. Success on the track mattered, but so did the life waiting beyond it. That purpose gave every step a deeper meaning. Victories became routine. Records continued to fall. Crowds expected greatness every time Jesse stepped onto the track. Then came the spring of 1935, the Big Ten Championships, a painful back injury. Most athletes would have stepped aside. Jesse stepped forward. What happened next would become one of the most extraordinary afternoons in the history of sport. Across the Atlantic, Germany prepared for the Olympic Games. The stadiums were finished. The flags were in place. The world was watching. For Adolf Hitler, Berlin would showcase the image Nazi Germany wanted the world to see. For Jesse Owens, it was simply another race. He could not know that millions of people would soon see something far greater than a sprinter. Before Berlin, history had one more surprise waiting for him. One afternoon, 45 unforgettable minutes. May 25, 1935, Ann Arbor, Michigan. The Big Ten Championships. Thousands filled the stands. They had come to watch America's fastest runner. Instead, they watched him struggle to stand. Just days earlier, Jesse had injured his lower back. Every step hurt. Every movement reminded him of the pain. There was real doubt over how much he could compete with an injured back. Coach Larry Snyder looked at Jesse. He did not tell him to run. He did not tell him to stop. The decision belonged to one man. Jesse walked quietly toward the starting line. Sometimes, history begins with a single step taken through pain. The starter raised his pistol. Silence settled over the stadium. Then, the gun fired. Jesse burst forward. His stride was smooth, his rhythm untouched. Within seconds, he crossed the finish line first. The crowd cheered. But Jesse barely smiled. He knew the day had only begun. His back still ached. Another event was already waiting. Most athletes would have protected themselves. Jesse chose something else. He chose to keep running. Then, the impossible happened. One event, then another, then another. In roughly 45 minutes, Jesse Owens tied the world record in the 100-yard dash and set world records in the long jump, the 220-yard dash, and the 220-yard low hurdles. The sequence was extraordinary, and the long jump mark would stand for 25 years. The pain that should have slowed him never caught him. By the time the afternoon ended, the stadium knew it had witnessed something extraordinary. Nearly a century later, those 45 minutes remain one of the most celebrated single-day performances in track and field history. By the next morning, America had a new headline: Jesse Owens. His name appeared across newspapers from coast to coast. Crowds no longer came hoping to see him win. They came expecting it. His fame expanded rapidly, but the next season still demanded the same training, study, work, and preparation. Records impressed the public, but they never impressed Jesse for long, because every finish line was only the beginning of the next race. Beyond America's stadiums, another stage was waiting. Germany prepared for the Olympic Games. New stadiums stood ready. Flags covered the streets. The world would soon gather in Berlin. For the Nazi government, the Games were meant to display power, unity, and the regime's belief in racial superiority. For Jesse, they were simply the next competition. He had no way of knowing that millions of people would soon see him as something much greater than an athlete. The American Olympic team was announced. Jesse Owens had earned his place. Friends celebrated. Reporters predicted gold medals. Expectations grew with every passing day, but Jesse made no promises. He understood how quickly sport could change. One poor start, one mistake, one injury could erase years of preparation. As the American team crossed the Atlantic, the world waited for an Olympic champion. History was waiting for something else. Berlin, August 1936. The Olympic Stadium stood ready. Nearly 100,000 spectators filled its seats. Flags covered the sky. Bands played. Cameras rolled. To the world, it looked like a celebration of sport. But beneath the ceremony, another story was unfolding. The Games had become a showcase for Nazi Germany. The spectacle projected strength, discipline, and national pride. Every victory would be watched, every defeat remembered. Jesse Owens entered the stadium as one athlete among many. He had no idea that before these games were over, his name would become part of history. The 100-meter final. The finalists waited for the start. Years of sacrifice would be measured in seconds. The starter raised his pistol. The stadium held its breath. Then, the race began. Jesse surged from the blocks. Every stride was controlled, every movement effortless. Within moments, it was over. Jesse Owens crossed the finish line first, Olympic champion in the 100 meters. The crowd erupted. One gold medal had been won. 3 more races still remained. The long jump brought unexpected tension. 2 fouls in qualification put Jesse under pressure before his final attempt. Standing nearby was Germany's finest long jumper, Luz Long. On that field, they represented different nations, different backgrounds, and very different worlds. Yet competition did not erase respect. Jesse reached the final and went on to win gold with an Olympic record jump. Luz Long claimed silver. After the event, the 2 athletes walked together across the stadium, side by side. It became one of the enduring images of the Berlin Olympics. Not because one man had defeated another, but because respect had outlived rivalry. Days later, Jesse returned for the 200 meters. Another victory, another Olympic record, and another gold medal. Then came the 4x100 meter relay. Only shortly before the race, Jesse was added to the American team. There was no room for hesitation. The baton moved cleanly through every exchange. The United States crossed the finish line first. 4 races, 4 gold medals, a feat never before achieved by a track and field athlete at a single Olympic Games. Millions around the world followed the results. Many saw only medals. Others saw something much larger. A young black athlete standing on the highest step of the podium. Again and again, Jesse Owens delivered no political speech. He made no public declaration. He simply competed. Yet every victory challenged the false belief that human worth could be measured by race. Sometimes, the loudest voice in history says nothing at all. Berlin came to an end. The stadium slowly emptied. The flags came down. The crowds went home. Jesse Owens left Germany with 4 gold medals. The world celebrated him as an Olympic legend. It seemed like the perfect ending. It wasn't, because the greatest challenge of Jesse Owens' life was waiting on the other side of the Atlantic. Back home, where no finish line could protect him, the journey home should have felt different. 4 Olympic gold medals, the admiration of the world. Newspapers called Jesse Owens a hero. He returned to public celebrations, including a ticker tape parade in New York. For a brief moment, it seemed as though everything had changed. The young boy who had once picked cotton in Alabama had reached the very top of the world. But ships do not carry dreams forever. Eventually, they reach shore, and reality begins. The applause faded, but the barriers remained. Jesse returned to the same country he had left, a country where segregation and racial discrimination still shaped everyday life. He could stand on the highest podium in the Olympic Games, yet he still faced discrimination in everyday life. The medals around his neck could not open every door. The world had celebrated his victories. His own country still had lessons to learn. People often imagine that Olympic champions return home to wealth. For Jesse, that was never the reality. His family still depended on him. Bills still arrived. Life continued. Track and field offered little financial security. Fame brought recognition, not stability. The greatest athlete in the world still had to find a way to provide for the people he loved. Sometimes, history remembers the medals and forgets the man carrying them. Without a professional circuit to support him, Jesse accepted exhibition races across America. He appeared in exhibition races against local runners and, famously, against a thoroughbred horse in Cuba. Not because he believed it honored his Olympic legacy, but because work was work, and his family came first. To some, the exhibitions looked like entertainment. To others, they seemed unworthy of an Olympic champion. For Jesse, they were work, and responsibility came before pride. The finish line had changed. He was no longer racing for gold. He was racing to put food on the table. The years after Berlin were complicated, and Jesse's public role evolved with them. Over the following decades, he traveled widely, promoted physical fitness and Olympic ideals, and spoke frequently to young people. The lessons he emphasized were no longer about starts, strides, or stopwatches, but about discipline, opportunity, and responsibility. He believed success meant little without character. That discipline mattered more than talent, and that hatred could never be defeated by becoming hateful in return. The man who had inspired millions with his speed now inspired them with his wisdom. Berlin had lasted only a few days. The rest of Jesse Owens' life lasted decades. The medals made him famous, but they did not spare him from the realities of race, work, family, or an America still struggling with equality. While the world remembered what he had done in Berlin, Jesse had to decide what to do with the years that followed. That became a different kind of race. Time moved on. New champions appeared, new records replaced old ones. The crowds that had once filled stadiums for Jesse Owens gradually looked elsewhere. That is the way of sport. But Jesse never measured his life by applause. He understood something few champions ever do. Fame faded, as it does for every athlete. What remained was the question of how Jesse would use the name Berlin had made famous. Jesse spent much of the following decades traveling for public appearances, youth programs, athletic clinics, and Olympic-related work. He spoke to young people who knew his name but had never seen him run. His message increasingly centered on discipline, responsibility, respect, and opportunity. Lessons shaped as much by the years after Berlin as by the races themselves. By then, the stopwatch was no longer the most important measure of his life. Recognition came slowly, far more slowly than victory. In 1976, President Gerald Ford presented Jesse Owens with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the highest civilian honor awarded by the United States government. The honor could not erase the discrimination or financial struggles that had followed his Olympic triumph. But 4 decades after Berlin, it marked a powerful change in how the country publicly remembered him. Jesse Owens was no longer being honored only for how fast he had run. On March 31, 1980, Jesse Owens died of lung cancer at the age of 66. Tributes arrived from around the world, not only for the records he had set or the medals he had won. The tributes remembered the records and medals, but also the decades of public work that followed Berlin and the enduring place he had earned in American sport. Today, athletes still study his races, and historians still return to Berlin in 1936. His 4 victories did not end prejudice, and they did not transform American society overnight. Their power lies somewhere more precise. On one of the world's largest stages, Jesse Owens made the claims of racial superiority impossible to reconcile with what millions of people had just watched him do. Time eventually catches every champion. Records fall, stadiums grow quiet, and medals become part of the archive. Jesse Owens left 4 of them in Berlin, but the reason his name endured was larger than the medal count. His life carried the contradictions of his country, celebrated for extraordinary achievement, constrained by racial discrimination, famous in youth, and formally honored by his country decades later. That is the Jesse Owens history remembers. The races ended long ago. The Olympic Stadium grew quiet, the crowds went home, and the medals took their place in history. Nearly a century later, the images remain. Jesse in the blocks, Jesse in flight, Jesse crossing the line. The footsteps are gone, the story remains. Jesse Owens defeated the best athletes of his generation and left Berlin with 4 Olympic gold medals. But the meaning of those victories grew far beyond the results sheet. He had entered a stadium surrounded by propaganda about racial superiority and left it as the most celebrated athlete of the Games. Then he returned home to a country that still denied him equality. Both truths belong to his story. Jesse Owens' story was never only about running faster. It was about where he began, what he was asked to overcome, what happened when the cheering stopped, and what remained after the records were no longer new. Berlin gave the world an unforgettable image of Jesse Owens. The decades that followed revealed the man behind it. Some stories are remembered because they changed history. Others changed the way we see it. Jesse Owens did both. Thank you for joining us on Story Reverie. If you want to discover more true stories behind the names history remembers, subscribe and join us for the next journey. Until next time.